Congressman, I enjoyed our conversation, and it's good to see you here. I know you've been chair of the House Budget Committee. I know you're a member of the Tea Party, been a strong advocate of balancing the budget, introducing a balanced budget for a stronger America, it's called. What I've noticed is that after gaining control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, the first order of business for the Republican majority here has been to pass a budget resolution repealing the ACA. And this budget resolution specifically authorizes $9 trillion in additional debt over the next 10 years. It also rigs the bill in secret to block any point of order to the bill because that bill will increase the deficit. And let me read my colleague, a smart guy who's here, Senator Paul, so astutely highlighted in his floor speech on January 4th. He said, quote, "The more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. Republicans won the White House. Republicans control the Senate. Republicans control the House. And what will be the first order of business for the new Republican majority? To pass a budget that never balances. To pass a budget that will add $9.7 trillion of new debt over 10 years. This is a facsimile of his chart. Is that really, he asked, what we campaigned on? Is that really what we campaigned on? The quote goes on, why would we vote on a budget that adds $9.7 trillion to the debt? Because we're in a hurry. We can't be bothered. It's just numbers. I was told again and again, swallow it, take it. They're just numbers. Don't worry, it's not really a budget. And yet the legislation says it's a budget. Quote, so this is what Republicans are for. This is the blueprint that the Republican Party says they're for. $10 trillion worth of new debt. I'm not for it, said that honest man. Rand Paul is right. The repeal law overrides two separate budget provisions already passed by the Senate that prevent increasing the deficit by more than $10 billion in a given year, increase the deficit more than $5 billion in years further down the road. So I ask you, sir, are you aware that behind closed doors, Republican leadership wrote into this bill that any replacement to the Affordable Care Act would be exempt from Senate rules that prohibit large increases to the deficit?
As you may know, Senator, I stepped aside as chairman of the Budget Committee at the beginning of this year, and so I wasn't involved in the writing of
You have been the Budget Committee chairman during the rise of the Tea Party. You're a member of the Tea Party caucus. You have said over and over again, as other people have, that the reason you've come to Washington is to reduce our deficit and reduce our debt. I assume you're very well aware of the vehicle that is being used to repeal the Affordable Care Act. This is not some small piece of legislation. This is the Republican budget.
Yes, I'm aware of the bill, yes.
So do you support a budget that increases the debt by $10 trillion?
No, what I support is an opportunity to use reconciliation to address the real challenges in the Affordable Care Act and to make certain that we put in place at the same time a provision that allows us to move the healthcare system in a much better direction.
Do you support the budget that was passed by the Senate Republicans to repeal the Affordable Care Act that adds $10 trillion of debt to the budget deficit?
Well, the reconciliation bill is yet to come. I support the process that allows for and provides for the fiscal year 17 reconciliation bill to come forward.
Will you commit today that any replacement plan for the Affordable Care Act will not in any way contribute to our deficit or our debt?
I commit to working with you to make certain that that happens.
Will you commit, as a member of the Tea Party, that no replacement for this dreadful Obamacare that allegedly created this deficit and debt will add to the deficit and debt? Will you commit to that? Can't you tell the Tea Party you're not going to increase the deficit by repealing the Affordable Care Act?
There are a lot of contributions to the debt and to the deficit, as you know, Senator.
That's true, and you and I talked about that briefly. Right. Are you going to allow the repeal of the health care bill to be one of those contributors to our deficit and to our debt? The CBO has said that repeal of the health care law could increase our deficit by up to $353 billion. And that's what they've said. Senator Paul, an honest man, has gone to the floor and said, the first thing we're doing is passing a budget that increases it by $10 billion. What do you say to the Tea Party about that?
What I say to the congressional...
Or more important, people that live in Colorado.
What do I say to folks in Colorado and across this land, that the Congressional Budget Office and the conclusions that they reached on that are in a silo. They're looking at it as if nothing else happened following the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. And so if you look at the whole constellation of things that will occur, I believe, in working with every member of Congress, should I be given the privilege of serving as the Secretary, we will make certain that it addresses the health care challenges that exist out there that are very, very real, and we look forward to working with you and committing to work with you on being as fiscally responsible as we can possibly be, because the debt and the deficit is a real challenge.
With respect, and I have a lot for you, with respect, that's what every politician says about the CBO. It says the numbers aren't true, and then we just run up the debt and run up the debt and run up the debt. And almost the entire theory of the case here, I think, from the Republican Party on this subject has been that the health care law has increased costs, that the health care law has increased our deficit, increased our debt, and I would hope that you could take a pledge today that would say that nothing that you would advocate for would pass or have the President sign into law, the President-elect sign into law, would add $1 to our deficit or our debt.
Well, I certainly hope that's the case, and again, look forward to working with you to ensure that it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.